Ladies and gentlemen, button pushers and wrench turners, welcome to Something's Broken, Episode 2. My name is Tayler Goodyear and I own TG CNC Service out of Wisconsin. This episode is basically the start of 2025. We're going to go over my first job of the year, basically. Nothing too crazy. But I'd like to go over just like the timeline of it all because it's kind of crazy how I even landed the job or how I was even offered the job up here. So let's dive into that. When I worked for my previous employer, I was traveling all over the country, and Texas was one of the places that I went to heavily. Houston and DFW area, and I think El Paso, maybe. I can't remember. There was one other place that I went to in Texas, but it's been a while. Houston, the customer that I went to down there had all kinds of different machines in their shop. Uh, you know, different OEMs. One trip that I was down there, this random dude just walks up to me. I'm standing at my machine and he just walks up to me and just starts talking to me out of nowhere. Just strikes a conversation, and we hit it off. We start bullshitting, talking about hunting and hunting hogs and hunting deer and stuff like that. And it became a really great conversation. And we must have sat there and talked for like 30, 45 minutes. It just kept talking about service, talking about traveling, and how long we've been in the industry and whatnot. And he ended up being a service technician as well, and he was in there doing a call, and he worked for a different OEM manufacturer. And I don't know how it came up, but I was just like, "Hey man, I'm gonna be here through the weekend, and I don't know what to do down here." And he was literally invited me out to his ranch, and he was like, "What are you doing over the weekend? Come out to my ranch. We'll fuck around. We'll shoot some guns, and maybe if we have some hogs in the yard, we'll take a crack at them." I was like, "Dude, that's awesome. Hell yeah, sign me up." So that weekend we hung out, went out to his ranch. We had a great time. The mosquitoes fucked me up, but they got horses down there as mosquitoes, and you can ride the fucking things if you wanted to. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it. Um, so had a great time. Met his family. His family's great. His wife is wonderful. They made some ribs out of a hog that they slaughtered, and man, it was a great time. Great time. Some of the best people that I still stay in contact to this day live in Texas. I mean, there's just great people down there. So fast forward, I obviously did a couple more jobs in Houston, and every time I went down to Houston, I hit him up and went over to his house a few times and hung out with his family and watched a couple of UFC fights with him and his block mates and whatnot. So it was great. We formed a great friendship, and we still stay in contact to this day. And it's been like 3 years, maybe longer than that, and it's awesome, awesome. I traveling and meeting people and staying in contact and making like true friendships with people like that is something that will always stick with me for traveling, and I cherish those friendships with those people very, very heavily. So we'll fast forward a little bit to IMTS this past year, IMTS 2024. That happens in Chicago every 2 years. And he hits me up. This is when I had already left my OEM and started my own company. About a year and a half into my own company, he hits me up and he's like, "What are you doing? Come to IMTS." And at the time that he hit me up, I knew that we had conversations about him leaving his OEM manufacturer and starting his own gig down in Houston. And, you know, I encouraged him probably more than I should have because it's fucking scary. And he's got a family and everything. And it's always a big question mark. You don't know what's going to happen when you start your own gig. So he kind of already had something lined up. It just was waiting to pull the trigger. And he finally pulled the trigger. And I, sent him all my graces, celebrating, telling him, fuck yeah, man, it's going to be awesome. And, he hit it off. He's doing great himself. He landed a type of a service contract with a customer down in Houston. I don't know how it's structured or anything like that, but I just know he has an agreement with them. And this company buys a lot of used equipment all over the country, and they ship it to their facility, and he sets them up. Now, these machines are a very specific OEM, the OEM that he used to work for. So they basically brought him on board to be their full-time service on-site technician instead of calling the OEM in. Now they have their own service technician on site. Good gig, honestly. Very, very smart on the company's end, to be honest with you. So he's like, hey, the company that I have this service contract through just bought a massive automated Fastums pallet pool. Fastums is a different kind of pallet pool system, but this is a pallet pool system with 2 horizontal mills and a shit ton of tombstones and tooling. And they bought the entire cell used from a company in Milwaukee. I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, do you think you could oversee the move, the rigging, the moving, the loading on trucks, everything, go there, kind of figure out what is all there, consolidate everything, and try to pack it up and get it ready for shipping? I was like, fuck yeah, I can do that. Lo and behold, the customer that they bought it from is actually one of my customers. So it kind of worked out. I hit up my contact. I was like, hey, I gave him the lowdown at the customer. I was like, I got a company in Houston that bought a cell out of one of your guys' facilities, and he hooked me up with the correct contact at that location because they were at 2 different locations in Milwaukee. And I got the ball rolling on that, talked to the contact there and got that solidified, and had a contact on site and whatnot. And so back to IMTS, I wasn't gonna go, it's just, I don't know, it's a shit show at IMTS. If you've ever been there, it's a kind of a nightmare. But and I live maybe 2 hours from IMTS. That's without traffic. And if you know anything about Chicago, the fucking traffic, dude, especially the closer you get to the city. And the McCormick place is literally smack dab in the middle of the city. So I wasn't gonna go, but he convinced me because him and another service technician and the owners of that company were coming up to IMTS, and he was like, they want to meet with you and they want to talk about this project. And I was like, all right, well, that's enough for me to go, honestly. So got all dappered up and went to IMTS, and I hung out at my old OEM manufacturing company that I used to work for before I started my own company, and hung out with those guys and seen my old service coordinator and old service manager, and shot the shit with those guys for a little bit. Always great seeing those guys, man. I love those guys, and had a great time just catching up with everybody. And I just kind of just hung out in that booth, and I walked around a little bit, and obviously everybody knows about the gigantic Fanic robot lifting the Corvette. That was pretty cool to see. I've seen that several times, but it was, it never gets old. They finally show up, and it was literally a 15-minute conversation. Like, all right, what are we doing? How are you going to do it? Do you know anything about the customer? Yada, yada, yada. And I was like, yeah, I can take care of everything. You just get me set up in your system for invoicing and shit like that, and I'll take care of everything up here. And they're like, okay, great. So I thought that was the end of the night, and it was not. uh, they invited me out with them, and if you know anything about IMTS and sales, uh, typically the sales guys for the OEMs that are on display at IMTS will take out customers after the show, and it'll be on their dime basically, just to kind of soften them up and sweeten them up and kiss their ass a little bit. So they had that set up with the big OEM manufacturer. Like, this is all the type. This is the only OEM that they have in their facility, as far as I know. And I'm talking hundreds of machines, different variations of machines, lathes, mills, horizontals, 5-axis, but they're all one specific OEM. So those sales guys had an agreement that they came up from Houston and was like, yeah, we'll take you out. I don't think they knew how many there was of us that were going out, and they, of course, they picked like one of the most expensive fucking steakhouses in Chicago. I don't even ask me what the name was because I have no idea. I don't remember, but it was good. I felt a little weird because it's just, I just met these guys and they're taking me out with an OEM that's gonna pay for my meal. Like, I just felt really weird about it, and I kept kind of making comments about it, and they were like, listen, just don't worry about it, man. Just order whatever the fuck you want and just enjoy it. I was like, okay, man, this is weird. I've never been through this before. I've never been taken out like that or anything like that. So it was all new, like business aspect. I've never been through that. So it was new. But we had a great time. Great time. And then after that, they still wanted to go out even more. And by then, I'm dying. It was like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and I have a 2-hour drive back home because I was not staying downtown. And I was like, oh, fuck, man, they want to go out again. So where they want to go? Trump Tower. Out of all places. So we went to the Trump Tower and went up to the balcony and hung out on the balcony. And they had other sales guys from other OEMs showing up, paying for all the drinks and stuff like that. And it was fun. It was a great time, something that I've never experienced before. On that aspect, I see why sales guys all try to go to IMTS because it's kind of a party, it's kind of like the unwinding of going hard for the last 2 years in sales and not really getting rewarded for it. So it's cool. It's cool. I just never experienced it. So after I left there, obviously pretty goddamn late, and drove home and whatnot, and they set up the schedule with me in late 2024 to go to the customer and kind of consolidate what all was at the customer and what was supposed to ship. They bought this cell in an auction, so there was kind of some paperwork to go off of, and not really, but everybody was still kind of questioning, like, okay, what is all there and what all needs to get packed, wrapped, whatever. Please go figure this out. So that was my job. So I go to that customer, and it wasn't too bad, honestly. They had, probably 250, 300 fucking tools laid out on pallets, like in an auction fashion. And I was like, dude, we can't put 20 pallets of tools on a truck. Like, I need to consolidate this down and put these in a box and kind of eliminate how much shit is here, because when I counted everything, like items that would had to be shipped, I think it was like 48 pallets or 48 items, including pallets, the machines, the tool hives. I mean, there was just so much shit, and I was like, "There's no way." I hit up my contact down in Houston, and I kind of explained to him. I was like, "Dude, there's so much shit here. There's no way that this is going to be good to send like this." He's like, "No, do what you can to consolidate it down and try to do your best. Like, that's so much, and I need measurements of all the machines. I need rough weights of all the machines, machines and components, and how many pallets roughly, so I know how many trucks to send. I need to know weights so I know what kind of rigging we need." I was like, "Oh, dude, I've never been through any of this. When I was OEM service, that somebody else already took care of all that. All I did was show up when the machine was either getting rigged off the truck and I seen it get placed and then I install it, or the machine is already in place and I'm just there to install it." So this was all completely new to me. I, a shit show, but I managed. I was able to figure it all out. I got the tools all consolidated down, and I got a pretty good number of how many pallets and whatnot were supposed to go. Got rough dimensions for oversized loads and shit like that. So uh, I had to go back a second time to get more measurements and get that sent off to my contact in Houston, so they could figure out trucking, tarping, and oversized loading, and everything that comes with trucking that I didn't know anything about. But I sure did learn. So fast forward to the first, it was basically December 30th and 31st. Houston customers scheduled me to be in there with the riggers, and first day was 4 trucks every 2 hours, and we just had them back right into the bay. The first 2 trucks were oversized loads that were taking the machines, because the machines had to be oversized. We got those loaded up. Riggers did a great job. They made it look so easy. Truckers were a little weird at first because I've never experienced truckers, loading machines and tarping and stuff. They hate tarping. I found out. I didn't really know tarping was that big of a deal, but it takes hours to tarp something, especially something that big of a 6,300 horizontal mill. 2 of them. They hate it. They hate it, and they let you know that they hate it. they let you know. They're disgusted about it. It's like, I'm sorry, man, but that's that's in your BOL. That's what you need to do. I'm sorry. So we got the machines loaded day one. We got 2 gigantic uh, tooling hives, because not only was the pallet pool automated, but it also had a gigantic both machines had their own tool hives, automated tool hive, which was cool. I've never really seen hives like that. It's almost kind of like a rack magazine. If you guys are familiar with those, there's a lot of different OEMs that make rack magazines to increase capacity, rather than like a drum magazine or a wheel magazine. But these things were fucking massive. I don't even know how many tools that each hive held, but it was massive. So we got those loaded up. Day two, um, was kind of a shit show, only because one of the truckers that came in, he was the second truck that came in. He showed me his BOL and he's like, "Listen, this is all I'm taking." I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm told by my contact that I need to shove as much shit onto your truck as possible. And he's like, no, 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 this is what I take. I was like, no, I'm sorry, but we're gonna load you up. I was like, you call your broker, figure it out. I don't care. I need to get as much of this stuff on your truck as possible. And then he was talking about tarping. He's like, I'm only supposed to tarp this. I was like, listen, man, just okay, just call your broker, just figure it out. I'm telling you, like this is what I'm being told. This is what needs to happen. So we eventually figured it out, and got 4 trucks loaded the second day, and we knocked out a lot. Knocked out a lot. There was a lot of shit that had to go, and we consolidated it down pretty good. I think 8 trucks total were scheduled, and I think we only loaded 7. So that's, I don't know if that's good. I feel like that's good. I think we consolidated it down pretty good, and got everybody loaded up and crammed the ever living fuck out of those trucks. So, uh, I'm sure the customer was happy about not having to buy or pay for an 8th truck. So now all of this shit is going to Houston. There are talks, nothing confirmed yet. Um, it was brought to my attention, and I was asked if I would be interested, and I was like, yeah, I definitely could be interested, depending on scheduling and whatnot. But there is a potential for me to follow the cell to Houston and install it, with my buddy down there. Um, he's kind of requesting that we work together to get it installed, because it's going to take months, probably, if it's just one guy and like a helper that doesn't know what he's doing or has never seen anything like that before. It'll take a very long time to install it. So he's like, dude, I think it'll just be a lot easier if we bring you down here, and whatever stipulation you want to build for yourself, stay 2 weeks at a time, go home for a weekend, come back for another 2 weeks, and do that until we don't need you anymore. And I there that schedule honestly is no different than what I used to do before I started my company. So I was like, fuck yeah. And obviously I'd be working side by side with my buddy, so you already know we're gonna have a great fucking time. And crawfish season is coming in, and yeah, we would have a great time getting that cell installed if it goes through. I don't know. It's obviously up to the customer. I trying to keep my options open as well. Um, Starting off the new year, I thought I was gonna be a little slow. Excuse me, and it's honestly taking off. And where I'm recording this now, um, almost my entire January is already booked. So things are going great. It's a little scary right now, because if I take any more on, I won't be able to keep up with the schedule, and I'll just be so backlogged. Eventually, customers are just gonna be like, "We'll call the OEM instead," and that's not what I want to happen. So it's you gotta play it right. You gotta be smart about the decision, to schedule certain things like that. Obviously, I have my contractor up here to try to lean on to cover my local customers as best as possible. But there's only so much that I can send him on right now, before getting more training knocked out, and knowing that there's more that I can send him on and trust him with, and whatnot. So it's a lot of big things being talked about. Obviously, my previous OEM has been in talks with me about potential jobs coming up as well. Um, there's a potential for a week-long job, if not longer, in Tennessee at a customer, doing a spindle replacement and potentially a gearbox replacement. So I, I don't know. Nothing's been confirmed, but we've been talking about it. I guess the ball is in the customer's court right now, so we're just kind of playing it by ear. I keep them updated with a calendar app, kind of. The service manager and I use Time Tree, I think it's called, and that allows me to update my schedule. And then when he thinks he's got a job for me, or needs to sub me out, he can just go onto the calendar and take a look at it before even getting a hold of me. So, he doesn't, I don't know, waste a phone call or something like that. But it just gives him an idea like what my pipeline is looking at in the future, to see if I would be potentially available for a job. I also use Time Tree with my contractor as well, so we don't always have to blow each other up about scheduling or something like that. Um, he's posted all of his work schedule, so it's nice because I can actually see his work schedule, and because he works a swing shift, so it's like all over the fucking place, and my brain just can't handle trying to keep up with it. So it's nice to just be able to open the app and be like, okay, you aren't working, I can send you this day, and it helps a lot with scheduling. That he actually is the one that showed me the app, and the app is great. So I don't know if you guys use Time Tree at all, but it's a free app, and it's great. And then everybody can see, whoever is in on the calendar can all see the schedule, so it's nice. Um, Trying to think of what else is going on. Um, Next week, I am at probably my top customer. They are a local customer. We have a couple of projects going on there that we had scheduled last year, for this year, and we're gonna get in there. Me and my contractor are gonna get in there, and there's some parts that we're waiting on for a grinder that my contractor has been working on quite a bit. We had some things happen on that one that were completely unexpected. Um, I don't know if it was caused by me or outside sources. We don't know. We don't really care. We're just trying to get it back up and going, and we did. We got it back up and going, and um, we had to swap coolant pumps out. We had to add. I wanted to add a safety contactor in there with an overload relay, and um, it's yeah, it's a very old grinder, and the whole original idea that the customer came to me was swap the coolant pump um, with a different one, and everything is 480 inside of the cabinet, and there's only a couple things that are stepped down to 220, and did not know that it was 480 out to the pump, because the wires that I followed, they look like they went to 220, and they weren't, but they were jumped to another contactor. It's hard. This electrical cabinet was a fucking shit show, and the electrical schematic, of course, did not match the wiring inside of the cabinet. So I kind of got fucked on it, and I kind of took blame for uh, the original coolant, not original coolant motor, but the motor that they wanted me to swap to, burning that thing up rather quickly, and yeah, it was just a nightmare. But we worked through it. We got it all figured out, whatnot, and sometimes that shit happens, and when you are working on old stuff like that, you got to be careful, because the older that it is, the more hands that have been inside of it. The electrical cabinet, hydraulics, uh, all the access drives, stuff like that. There's been a lot of hands on it. And sometimes people jump shit and they don't correct the electrical schematic or anything like that. So when you open up the cabinet, it is a fucking rat's nest of wiring. And most of the time, if anything is added as far as wiring, it's not labeled. So you have no idea what it is, and which is what happened to me. And I try to follow it as best as possible, and I thought I followed it to the correct place, and I ended up being wrong. So it happens. Luckily, we had another coolant pump, and um, they're rather inexpensive. I don't know where they got these coolant pumps, but they're a little cheap on the cheap side, from what I could tell. But they work. I had to change the contactor down and put an overload in, so burning it up would never happen again. The circuit would be protected, because that there was no safety relays or thermal overloads inside of the cabinet at all on anything. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna protect this circuit now and make sure what happened to me never happens again. So, um, got some buttons for the control panel on the grinder ordered. A lot of them were broken out and smashed and whatnot. This is all my contractor taking care of all this for me. I kind of got pulled off of it and was working on other machines inside the shop. So I told my contractor, I was like, "This is your machine. Like, you take full responsibility of whatever you need to do, and whatever they want to have happen to the machine, I'm giving it to you. It's up to you." And he's like, "Okay, works for me," and he's done great on it. Great. He's doing great. So he took care of a lot of wiring inside the cabinet. He cleaned up a lot of wiring, and they had a short on a circuit board, and he found the short, and he did great doing it. I was impressed. I actually gave him a little bit of a raise after that, just because his pay scale is incentivized. So he did great. I was impressed and happy that he was able to figure those things out, and we're adding some safety guards to it. We're trying to make it to where these things that have happened don't ever happen again on this machine. So those are the steps we're going through. My contractor, for the most part, is going through, and we're just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other and what's the most logical route to do it, and then we kind of bring the customer in and give them our 2 cents on it. Because my contractor used to be, he used to install safety guards and safety circuits on machines. So this guy knows safety a little too much. And sometimes I just gotta tell him, dude, just shut the fuck up. Just stop. I was like, I get it. Yeah, OSHA, whatever. Yeah, no, that's fine. I get it. Just stop sometimes. It's just, sometimes it's just too much. He's like, yeah, well, this and that. It's like, yeah, okay, man, whatever, dude. Just stop talking to me in a playing way. That's just how we banter back and forth. But it's 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 funny. Obviously, out at the customer, we take it seriously. But when it's just him and I bantering back and forth, we gotta bust each other's balls a little bit, and it keeps the day fun. Anybody who's in a machine shop, you guys know about shop talk. I mean, everybody that's a machinist or works maintenance in a shop, there's always shop talk. So we got that. And next week I have a X-axis ball screw replacement on a vertical mill. That'll be, yeah, that won't be anything. I'll probably have that done in a day and a half. I don't see that taking me too long. I have a turret potential alignment that I need to do, and a tailstock alignment on a 2500 lathe. I'm going to take a look at that and see what's going on there. A lot of times on lathes that don't have hard pockets. Now, what I mean by hard pockets are the orientation. Each pocket has an orientation plate, and that orientation plate is what keeps the tool holder straight when you install it onto the tool post. Okay, some OEMs use a key plate. Some OEMs actually cut it into the tool post depending on the year of the machine. Um, the one that I'm working on uses a pinned key plate. Now, what happens usually is if they crash the lathe, depending on how they crashed it in the X direction or Z direction, it will cock the key plate. And when that happens, you can align that turret so tight and so good, 0 0. There's no such thing as 0 0, but let's just say 1 micron of parallelism of X and Z, and perpendicularity. I mean, we're maybe 10 microns, right? Something like that. Doesn't matter. If they go to put that tool post or that tool holder back on that post, it'll still be cocked. And it doesn't matter how straight your turret is. So you have to indicate that key plate also. And when I come in, 9 times out of 10, they don't know what pocket they crashed on. So I have to check every fucking pocket. And it drives me insane, but it has to be done because you'll get down the road and they'll call you back like, dude, we still can't cut this fucking part. Well, that's because the key plate is fucked up. Your pins are bent. Got to replace them. Got to re-indicate it in. So we'll check that out. We'll see what's going on. Tailstock alignment. We'll put a, I don't know, 15-inch bar stock in there, and we'll take an OD test cut on it and see how much taper is on it, and we'll adjust it if we need to. So that's about it. There's more shit in the pipeline, but we're gonna save that for another episode, and I'll update you guys off of this week or the next week after we've finished that week out and see where everything is. So, motivational time. If you guys know Jocko Willink is he's a pretty cool dude, pretty motivational guy. And he's got a saying. I don't know if it's a quote. I don't feel like it's a quote, but it's a saying, and it kind of goes like this. And I might butcher it a little bit, but it goes. Now this is just metaphorically speaking. This isn't literal, so don't take it that way. But he goes, if you're in the woods and you don't know where to go, start walking. You have to start walking because the perspective doesn't change. And God forbid you start walking and you find out that you walked in the wrong direction. Okay, great. Turn around, start walking the other way. Because just laying there, waiting to die, is failure. And that's not an option. That cannot be an option. And I think what I took most out of that in my head when I broke it down was sometimes in life you get knocked down. You hit rock bottom and you don't know what to do, don't know where to go, don't know who to talk to, don't know what to do. And I think sometimes you just have to find one little thing and just go and do it. Good things, not bad things. And I think what that motivational quote, whatever, is really talking about if you're just so lost in your mind and you don't know what to do, that you just got to start you have to pick a direction and start going in that direction. Because if you just stay put and you stay in your place and you don't move, you're going to die. And I'm not just talking about physically, but I'm talking mentally. You're going to give up. And giving up for anybody it's not an option. It cannot be an option. And I hope anybody that might be stuck out there and you don't know where to go, man, just fucking head in that direction. Just start going. you're going to find something. But you have to start moving. And I hope you guys find it. Because it's out there. And you'll find it. Just got to start walking. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. I try to keep these as short as I possibly can. I know I kind of drag them out. I don't want to be like just another fucking podcast and be 2 hours in and I'm still talking about the same fucking thing. I don't want to do that. I want to try to keep it as short as possible. Sometimes explaining things are going to drag out, and I apologize in advance, but I want to try to explain the situation as best as possible because you just never know who's out there and who's listening. They could be in the same situation, and I might say something and be like, dude, that's it. That's it. And, that's really what I hope may happen off of these talks and this podcast. So thank you. This is Something's Broken. My name is Tayler Goodyear, and I own TG CNC Service. Thank you for tuning in, and I will check you guys on the next episode. We'll see you guys.